So, let me understand this correctly, Critch said, trying to maintain her diplomatic composure while attempting to scratch her shoulder blade against the corner of a medical cabinet. Your species still coexists with parasitic organisms. Sarah adjusted the quantum scanner, watching the bizarre light show playing across Critch's skin. The parasites had arranged themselves into what looked suspiciously like a smiling face. Not by choice, usually, but yes, Earth's ecosystem is full of parasitic relationships. How delightfully primitive. Critch's skin flashed a combination of purple and green that the scanner interpreted as profound disgust. The Zelaxian confluence eliminated all parasitic life forms during our second great purification, approximately 3 of your Earth centuries ago. We found their existence inefficient. Meaty's holographic interface flickered to life. Dr. Chen, preliminary analysis complete. The organisms appear to be engineered. Their quantum state shifts correspond to the host's emotional responses. Engineered. Critch stopped scratching long enough to look horrified. Are you suggesting someone deliberately created these freeloaders? Sarah watched as the parasites rearranged themselves into what was definitely a mocking expression. They seemed to respond to your emotional state. Try to calm down. Calm down. The translator glitched spectacularly. IAMPRFACTLR CAFOD calm. This is TAVAREEPI TONE OFERO. Dancing ATLICOPTR. Diplomatics composure. The parasites formed themselves into a series of exclamation points. Sarah fought back a smile. MEDI, start recording. This might be the first documented case of parasites with a sense of humor. Already recording, Doctor. The footage has gone viral on 3 different medical networks. Your Tuesday is now trending. Critch's skin cycled through several colors not found in Earth's visible spectrum. Viral? Like one of your primitive biological infection vectors. I refuse to become a vector for primitive Earth humor. No, Sarah tried to explain. It means, well, never mind. Let's focus on understanding what these parasites are doing. You said this started at a spa. The Stellar Serenity Spa, Critch confirmed, now trying to scratch herself with all 4 arms while maintaining what she clearly thought was a dignified pose. They advertised it as living light therapy, a revolutionary treatment combining quantum harmonics with bioluminescent organisms. It was quite pleasant for the first few hours. Sarah watched the scanner readouts with growing concern. These parasites, they're not just responding to your emotions, they're amplifying them. And look at this pattern, they're organizing themselves like a neural network. They're thinking. Critch's horror caused the parasites to form themselves into a tiny dancing chorus line across her shoulders. Not exactly, but... Sarah was interrupted by an urgent alert from MEDI. Doctor, incoming priority transmission from the Zelaxian embassy. The medical bay's main screen lit up with the image of an older Zelaxian, their skin patterns arranged in what Sarah had learned to recognize as the bureaucratic equivalent of a scowl. Third Undersecretary Critch, the new Zelaxian's translator, rendered their speech in perfectly modulated tones. We have received reports of your condition. This is most irregular. Ambassador V. Cole, Critch attempted to stand at attention, failed spectacularly as a wave of itching hit her, and ended up spinning in 0 gravity. I can explain. The parasites, apparently deciding this was the perfect moment for performance art, arranged themselves into a perfect replica of the ambassador's face, complete with disapproving expression. Sarah watched as Critch's skin shifted to what MEDI helpfully labeled as mortified chartreuse. Is that... Ambassador V. Cole leaned closer to their screen. Is that supposed to be me? To be fair, Sarah interjected, they're showing remarkable mimetic abilities for organisms, but shouldn't even be capable of collective behavior. Dr. Chen, is it? The ambassador's skin patterns shifted to formal mode. I trust you understand that this situation requires the utmost discretion. We cannot have word spreading that a Zalaxian diplomat has been infected by performance art parasites. Medai suggested helpfully. As if on cue, the organisms rearranged themselves into a miniature recreation of the entire conversation, complete with tiny dramatic gestures. Sarah watched as both Zalaxian's skin patterns cycled through various stages of diplomatic distress and realized that her perfectly normal Tuesday had just become a potential interstellar incident. MEDI, she murmured, update that status from apocalyptically chaotic to diplomatically delirious. Already done, Doctor. Shall I prepare the incident report forms in triplicate? The next morning found Sarah staring at her medical bay, which now resembled a cross between a diplomatic summit and an interpretive dance recital. 3 more Zalaxian officials had arrived overnight, each more pompous than the last, and each now sharing Critch's increasingly dramatic condition. I would like to formally protest, announced Second Ambassador Tilara, while scratching against a biobed, this undignified situation. The parasites on her skin helpfully formed themselves into a gavel banging repeatedly. Noted, Sarah sighed, watching as her scanner recorded yet another failed treatment attempt. But perhaps we could focus on the fact that these parasites are showing signs of rapid evolution. Critch, who had somewhat adapted to her condition, or at least learned to scratch with more grace, floated nearby. Evolution? Like your primitive earth creatures, surely you jest. Mihide's hologram flickered with what Sarah swore was amusement. Displaying comparative analysis, the parasites have developed a 47% more efficient quantum state shifting capability in the last 12 hours. They appear to be learning. The parasites across all 4 Zalaxians suddenly formed into a series of mathematical equations, as if showing off. Fascinating, Sarah muttered. They're responding to our conversation about them. This isn't just mimicry anymore. They're demonstrating actual comprehension. Less fascinating, more fixing, demanded junior diplomatic attaché Rakan, who had arrived just an hour ago and was already performing what looked like an anti-gravity ballet of pure discomfort. Do you have any idea how this will affect our trade negotiations with the Arcturian consensus? Actually, Critch interjected, pausing in her scratching, the Arcturians cancelled the negotiations. Apparently, footage of our condition has gone viral across their entertainment networks. They're calling it the Great Zalaxian Scratch-Off. Sarah watched as the parasites enacted a miniature version of what appeared to be a game show, complete with scores and flashing lights. MEDI, are you seeing this? They're developing a sense of narrative structure. Indeed, Doctor. They appear to be evolving into something akin to a collective performance art piece. Also, you have an incoming call from the Earth Department of Xenobiology. Apparently, you've been nominated for a Most Interesting First Contact Scenario Award. Delightful, Sarah muttered, then turned back to her patients. Look, I know this is uncomfortable, but these parasites are unlike anything we've ever encountered. They're not just surviving, they're thriving on your emotional responses and creating increasingly complex behavioral patterns. Complex. Tilora's skin flashed indignantly. They just spelled out, this meeting could have been an email across my back. Sarah checked her scanner and had to bite back a laugh. The parasites had indeed arranged themselves into perfect English text, complete with proper punctuation. At least they're developing a grasp of office humor. Dr. Chen, Critch suddenly said, her voice unusually serious. I've been thinking, before the Second Great Purification, our historical records speak of something similar, symbiotic organisms that enhanced our natural bioluminescence. We dismiss them as primitive biological accessories, but what if? She was interrupted by the arrival of yet another Zalaxian diplomat, this one practically bouncing off the walls before they even reached the medical bay. The spa, they shouted, their translator glitching between languages. I just came from the spa. Everything is so EROR. DSCOPRTUE, itchy. Sarah watched as the parasites across all 5 Galaxians synchronized for a moment, creating a spectacular light show that put the station's emergency beacons to shame. MEDI, she called out, new working theory. These aren't parasites, at least not in the traditional sense. They're trying to establish some form of symbiotic relationship, but the Galaxians' engineered biology is rejecting them. Like trying to install new software on an incompatible system, MEDI suggested. Exactly. And someone at that spa is deliberately introducing them to Galaxian hosts. The question is, why? Critch, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly lit up, literally. Doctor, what if this isn't an attack? What if someone is trying to restore something we lost? The parasites across her skin formed into a single, perfect DNA helix, spinning slowly. Sarah looked at her scanner, then at her increasingly illuminated patients, and realized that what had started as a simple medical mystery was about to become something much bigger. MEDI, she said quietly, update status to evolutionarily extraordinary. And diplomatically delirious. That too, definitely that too. Let's review our failed treatments so far, Sarah announced to her increasingly luminous patients, pulling up a whole screen. Standard antiparasitics, failed. Quantum field disruptors, made them dance. Traditional Galaxian purification rituals, they formed a conga line. Critch, who had taken to floating upside down because it provided a new scratching angle, sighed. At least they're entertaining themselves. Look, they're recreating your last 4 treatment attempts with a scoring system. True enough, the parasites had arranged themselves into a series of scenes across all 5 Galaxians, complete with tiny explosive effects for each failed treatment. The score displayed was a solid 0. Doctor, MEDI interrupted, your grandmother is on the line. Again, she's quite insistent about her solution. Sarah rubbed her temples. MEDE, I don't think traditional Chinese medicine is going toe. Actually, Critch interjected, now spinning slowly in place. At this point, I would try a ritual dance to your Earth-Moon goddess if you thought it would help. The parasites immediately formed themselves into a tiny moonlit dance scene. Your grandmother sounds wise, announced Ambassador Tilara, who had given up on dignity hours ago and was scratching against a medical scanner. Ancient wisdom often holds forgotten truths, like how we forgot about our own symbiotic past. Sarah stared at her patients, then at the comm link blinking with her grandmother's call. MEDI put her through, but maintain quarantine protocols. The screen flickered to life, showing an elderly woman in a traditional Chinese kitchen. Ah, Xiao Chan, I told you those fancy space medicines wouldn't work. You need balance, harmony. Nay, these are quantum state parasites affecting alien biology. I don't think. Everything is about balance. Her grandmother interrupted, waving a bundle of herbs at the screen. These creatures, they seek harmony, yes. Like the old stories of the Firefly dancers. The parasites across all 5 Galaxians suddenly stopped their performance, arranging themselves into what looked remarkably like Chinese characters. MEDI, Sarah called out, are you seeing this? Affirmative, Doctor. The parasites appear to be attempting to communicate using a combination of ancient Chinese pictographs and Galaxian light patterns. Fascinating. Grandmother Chen leaned closer to her screen. Ah, they understand. Quick, write this down. You need ghost pepper extract, blessed by moonlight. Nay, I can't just. Mixed with quantum-charged green tea and a trace of the host's original bacterial flora from before their great purification. The medical bay fell silent, except for the soft hum of the station's systems and the occasional scratch of a Galaxian diplomat. That's actually not crazy, Sarah said slowly. The capsaicin in ghost peppers could trigger a specific immune response. The quantum-charged tea could help stabilize their shifting state, and if we could find samples of pre-purification Galaxian biology. We maintain genetic archives, Critch offered, her skin pulsing with sudden hope. Every species we've modified is preserved in its original state, for historical purposes. The parasites began forming complex molecular structures across their hosts, as if offering suggestions. They're helping, Sarah realized. They're showing us the chemical compounds they need to establish proper symbiosis. Of course they are, Grandmother Chen declared triumphantly. They're not parasites, they're matchmakers. Now, about the moonlight blessing. I think we can handle the scientific parts, nay, Sarah interrupted gently. But, thank you. You helped us see this from a new perspective. Bah, science, tradition, all the same thing viewed from different angles, like your light-drawing friends there. Now go, make harmony, and call your mother more often. As the screen went dark, Sarah turned to her patients. The parasites had arranged themselves into a perfect yin-yang symbol across Critch's back. Well, Sarah announced, who's ready to try some extremely spicy quantum tea with a side of ancient bacteria? Will it hurt? Junior Attaché Wakon asked nervously. The parasites spelled out, yes. Mingi, Sarah called out, trying not to laugh. Update status to historically harmonious. And add gastronomically adventurous. Definitely. And start synthesizing ghost peppers. Something tells me we're about to make xenomedicine history. The parasites formed a tiny fireworks display, as if celebrating in advance. Breaking news across all frequency bands, MediD announced, projecting multiple news feeds across the medical bay. Our story has officially gone galactic. Sarah watched as holographic headlines floated past. Xilxindiplnats, Agilo in Continentu or VESI. Human Dotstio Coenabines Ancient Earth Medicine with QUN2UMP8YS. Slime Biotech's Renaissance. Are we Gohalitinius SRing evolution in action? Critch, whose parasites had finally settled into a more harmonious relationship after the ghost pepper treatment, created elegant light patterns across her skin. Look at this one, from plague to performance. How Earth medicine revolutionized xenobiology. Doctor, Media interrupted. The station's communication systems are being overwhelmed. We have incoming calls from the Arcturian Science Academy, the Regellian Medical Council, 17 news networks, and oh my. What now? The Intergalactic Entertainment Network wants to know if Critch would be interested in starring in a reality show called Dancing with the Symbionts. The parasites immediately formed themselves into a dance competition scene, complete with tiny judges holding up scoring cards. Absolutely not, Critch declared, though her skin flickered with amusement. Though I must admit, since the treatment, the relationship has become rather fascinating. She demonstrated by creating a complex light show that rippled across her body in perfect harmony with the symbionts. Dr. Chen, Ambassador T. Lara called out, floating nearby with her own newly harmonized symbionts. You need to see this. Other species are coming forward. Apparently, we weren't the only ones to visit that spa. Sarah pulled up the incoming reports on her datapad. Species after species, all reporting similar infections after visiting luxury spas across the galaxy. But something was different about their cases. MEDI analyzed these reports. Are you seeing this pattern? Indeed, Doctor. It appears the symbionts are adapting differently to each species based on their biological heritage. The Arcturians are reporting enhanced telepathic abilities, the Regellians claim improved regeneration, and the Centaurians. Oh, that's interesting. What about the Centaurians? They're apparently able to process complex mathematical equations by having the symbionts arrange themselves into computational arrays. They're calling it organic quantum computing. Sarah watched as more reports flooded in. The story was evolving faster than she could track it. This isn't just about restoration anymore. These symbionts are actively adapting to enhance each species' natural capabilities. Doctor, Critch said thoughtfully, her symbionts forming intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with her words. Do you realize what this means? Humanity's primitive approach to medicine, maintaining balance rather than eliminating perceived threats, might have just revolutionized galactic society. The medical-based communication system chimed again, and again, and again. Current count, MIDI reported 247 species requesting information about traditional Earth healing practices. The Galactic Medical Association is calling for an emergency conference. And, oh dear. What now? Your grandmother has received offers from 32 alien pharmaceutical companies. She's trending on the Galactic social network as Space Medicine Grandmother, Wisdom of the Ages. Sarah couldn't help but laugh as she watched the symbionts across her patient's skin form a series of celebratory fireworks. MEDI, update status to galactically viral. Already done. Also, Doctor, you might want to prepare a statement. The Human Diplomatic Corps is calling this the greatest advancement in interspecies relations since first contact. They're particularly excited about the fact that Earth's primitive medical knowledge is being recognized as cutting-edge galactic science. Courage created a stunning light display that spelled out primitively perfect across her skin. Sometimes, she said with what Sarah had learned to recognize as a Zalaxian smile, the oldest solutions are the best ones. Though perhaps we could find a way to make the ghost pepper treatment a bit less intense. The symbionts formed tiny peppers with flames shooting out of them, clearly enjoying the memory. MEDI, Sarah called out, watching as more headlines streamed in. I think we're going to need a bigger medical bay. And more ghost peppers. Definitely more ghost peppers. Something tells me this story is just getting started. The symbionts across all 5 Zalaxians formed into a single word, CQL. Sarah never thought she'd find herself wearing a glittering robe in a luxury space spa, pretending to be a wealthy Earth socialite seeking quantum enlightenment. Yet here she was, with Courage floating nearby, poorly disguised as her personal illumination consultant. Remember, Sarah murmured into her subvocal communicator, we're just here for reconnaissance. No dramatic light shows. Courage's symbionts formed tiny opera glasses, peering around the spa's crystalline walls. I am the very soul of discretion, she whispered back, while her skin flickered with barely contained excitement. Ladies, purred their host, a sleek Andromedian with chrome-plated scales. Welcome to Stellar Serenity's premium quantum enhancement experience. I see you've opted for our special treatment package. The way they said special made Sarah's investigative instincts tingle. Her scanner, disguised as a jeweled bracelet, was already picking up familiar quantum signatures. Oh yes, Sarah gushed in her best socialite voice. I simply must have what everyone's talking about. These new, biological accessories are all the rage back on Earth. The Andromedian's scales rippled with interest. Fascinating. Most of our clients prefer to keep their treatments discreet, yet lately there seems to be a certain enthusiasm about the results. Speaking of results, Critch interjected, her symbionts barely restraining themselves from forming question marks. One hears such interesting rumors about the source of your treatment organisms. Media's voice whispered in Sarah's earpiece, Doctor, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations from the lower levels. These readings match the symbiont's signatures, but they're far more intense. The Andromedian led them to a treatment room that looked more like a genetic laboratory trying very hard to pass as a spa. Our methods are quite proprietary. Sarah lay down on the floating treatment bed, watching through half-closed eyes as the therapist prepared what was obviously a sophisticated biological delivery system. Her scanner was going crazy. MEDI, she subvocalized. Are you getting this? Affirmative. The quantum signatures suggest these organisms are being artificially evolved at an accelerated rate. They're using the SPA clients as unwitting test subjects for synthetic symbiont development. Courage, maintaining her cover as a consultant, drifted closer to a wall panel that was poorly concealing some very unspar-like equipment. "Oh my," she exclaimed with artificial surprise as her symbionts deliberately caused her to stumble against it. "How clumsy of me." The panel popped open, revealing a massive network of biological cultivation tanks. Inside, trillions of symbionts swirled in patterns that made Sarah's eyes hurt. The Andromedian's chrome scales flushed dark. "I see we'll have to move to our contingency procedures." "I don't think so," Sarah said, dropping the socialite act. "Me now." The station's security forces materialized through the quantum teleporters they'd hidden throughout the spa. Leading them was Ambassador Tilara, her symbionts forming official-looking badges across her skin. In name of the Galactic Health and Safety Commission, Tilara announced with considerable satisfaction, "This facility is hereby quarantined for illegal genetic manipulation, unauthorized symbiont cultivation," and she paused for dramatic effect. "Failure to display proper pricing for services rendered." The Andromedian tried to flee but discovered that Krich's symbionts had formed a very real, very solid light barrier across the doorway. "How?" they demanded. "Our security was perfect." Sarah smiled. "Next time you're running an illegal genetic engineering operation, maybe don't advertise it to species that actually understand parasitic and symbiotic relationships. We've been tracking your little operation across 12 different spa chains." The symbionts, Krich added, her light display now forming official containment patterns, were actually quite helpful in the investigation. "They've been communicating with their cousins in your labs this entire time." As security led the Andromedian away, Sarah examined the cultivation tanks. "MEDI, full analysis. I want to know exactly what they were trying to achieve here." Preliminary results suggest they were attempting to create customized symbionts for biological enhancement. A profitable venture if highly illegal and extremely dangerous. "Doctor," Krich called out, her symbionts forming exclamation points, "you need to see this." They have research files on every major species in the galaxy. They weren't just making designer symbionts, they were trying to force evolve an entirely new form of life. Sarah stared at the swirling patterns in the tanks. MEDI, update status to criminally complicated, and evolutionarily explosive. That too. Something tells me this case just got a lot bigger than itchy diplomats. The Kuiper Medical Station's main laboratory had transformed into what Sarah liked to call organized chaos. Holographic displays showed the rapid evolution of various symbiont strains, while teams of scientists from a dozen species worked to understand the illegal SPA's research. "Report update," MEDI announced, projecting the latest findings. The symbionts from the SPA facility show signs of artificial acceleration. They were attempting to compress thousands of years of evolution into weeks. Krich, whose own symbionts were forming complex molecular diagrams across her skin, floated near a quantum containment field. "Look at these growth patterns. They're not just evolving, they're trying to communicate something." Sarah adjusted her quantum scanner, watching as the captive symbionts arranged themselves into increasingly complex structures. "They're showing us their intended evolutionary path. MEDI, are you recording this?" "Always, Doctor. Though I must note that several of these patterns appear to be impossible according to known biological laws." The symbionts in the containment field suddenly formed themselves into what looked like a DNA helix, but with extensions that seemed to reach into other dimensions. "Not impossible," Ambassador Tilara said, entering the lab with a team of Zelaxian scientists. "Forgotten. These patterns match ancient Zelaxian cave drawings from before our recorded history. We thought they were abstract art." Sarah watched as her patient's symbionts began synchronizing with the contained ones, creating a light show that made the station's normal illumination seem dim by comparison. They're not just trying to restore lost abilities, they're trying to evolve them into something new. "Doctor," MEDI interrupted, incoming emergency signal from the Arcturian research team. "Their containment field is showing signs of quantum instability." Before anyone could react, the field flickered and failed. The freed symbionts shot across the lab like living lightning, merging with the existing colonies on the Zalaxian diplomats. The light show that followed was spectacular and terrifying. "Everyone out," Sarah shouted, but it was too late. The merged symbionts were creating patterns she'd never seen before, filling the lab with impossible colors and shapes that seemed to bend reality itself. Critch gasped as her own symbionts began to change. "Dr. Chen, it's not painful, but oh." Sarah watched in amazement as Critch's natural bioluminescence merged perfectly with the symbionts, creating patterns that somehow managed to convey emotions and complex scientific concepts simultaneously. MEDI analysis. The symbionts appear to be achieving their intended evolutionary state, Doctor. They're not just communicating, they're creating a new form of quantum biological computing using their host's natural abilities as a framework. Ambassador Laura's symbionts began resonating with Critch's, forming complex equations that solved themselves in real time. This is what we lost. Not just the symbiosis, but the potential for what it could become. Sarah's scanner was showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. They're not parasites or even simple symbionts. They're some kind of biological quantum computer that evolves with their hosts. The SPA wasn't creating weapons. They accidentally rediscovered something that existed naturally eons ago. "Doctor," MEDI chimed in, incoming messages from every major scientific institution in known space. The light show is visible from orbit, and the quantum readings are off any established scale. Critch, now glowing with patterns that made Sarah's eyes water, managed to speak. "We didn't just find a cure for an itchy skin condition. We've discovered, or rediscovered, the next step in biological evolution." The lab had become a symphony of light and quantum information as the symbionts demonstrated their true potential. Sarah watched as complex scientific theories wrote themselves in light across her patient's skin, each pattern more incredible than the last. "MEDI," Sarah called out, her voice filled with wonder. "Update status to evolutionarily transcendent. And the illegal SPA operation. They're still in trouble for unsafe practices, but I think they accidentally solved one of the greatest mysteries in galactic history. The question is, are we ready for what comes next?" The symbionts answered by forming a simple message across every infected diplomat. "Together we evolve." Sarah looked at her scanner, then at her glowing patients, and realized that her perfectly normal Tuesday had just changed the course of galactic history. "Well," she said to no one in particular, "at least it's not itchy anymore." The symbionts spelled out, "LOL." 3 months after what the galactic media had dubbed the Quantum Enlightenment Incident, Sarah stood in the newly established Interstellar Institute of Symbiotic Studies, watching as species from across known space came together in ways she'd never imagined possible. "Dr. Chen," Critch called out, her symbionts forming elegant welcome messages in multiple languages, "the Arcturian delegation has arrived for the Harmony trials." The main chamber of the Institute was a testament to how far they'd come. What started as a desperate attempt to cure an itchy diplomat had evolved into the biggest breakthrough in interspecies cooperation since the discovery of faster-than-light travel. MEDI, Sarah called to her faithful AI companion, now upgraded with symbiont-enhanced quantum processors. "How are the integration statistics looking?" "Fascinating, Doctor. We've documented successful symbiosis in over 300 species. Each combination produces unique benefits while maintaining perfect biological harmony. Your grandmother's theory about balance has been proven correct on a galactic scale." Sarah watched as an Arcturian researcher demonstrated their newly enhanced abilities, their symbionts creating complex three-dimensional star maps in midair. Nearby, a group of Rigellian healers used their symbiont-enhanced regenerative abilities to heal injuries that would have been fatal just months ago. "Speaking of balance," Critch said, floating closer, "the Zalaxian Council has finally admitted that the second Great Purification might have been a bit hasty. They're calling it the Great Restoration now." Quite a change from primitive Earth contamination, Sarah teased, watching as Critch's symbionts formed a series of laughing faces. Ambassador T. Lara, now heading the Galactic Symbiosis Advisory Board, approached with a formal light pattern rippling across her skin. Dr. Chen, the Council has reached a decision. Earth is being recognized as the custodian of biological harmony. Your planet's primitive approach to understanding parasites and symbiotic relationships has proven to be the most advanced biological science in known space. The symbionts across every being in the chamber formed a synchronized celebration pattern, creating a light show that could be seen from orbit. And the spa operators? Sarah asked, remembering where it all began. Pardoned, Tilara confirmed, but under strict supervision. Their reckless methods nearly destroyed something beautiful, but without them, we might never have rediscovered our symbiotic heritage. They're now working with the Institute to establish proper protocols for symbiont integration. Medie's hologram flickered with amusement. Doctor, incoming call from your grandmother. She wants to know when you're coming home for dinner, and if you're bringing any nice glowing friends. Sarah laughed, watching as Critch's symbionts formed tiny dumplings dancing through the air. Tell her we'll be there. Something tells me she's already planning to feed the entire institute. One more thing, Doctor, Critch said, her symbionts forming formal ceremonial patterns. The Zelaxian confluence has created a new title in your honor, Harmonizer of the Living Light, though personally, I still prefer She Who Stops the Itching. The chamber filled with appreciative light patterns as beings from across the galaxy demonstrated their unique symbiotic relationships. Each species had found its own way to work with the symbionts, creating a stunning display of unity in diversity. You know, Sarah mused, watching as a young Centaurian child played with their newly acquired symbionts, creating patterns that would have baffled quantum physicists just months ago. Sometimes the best solutions come from understanding rather than eliminating what we don't understand. Indeed, Critch agreed, her symbionts forming a perfect yin-yang symbol. Though perhaps next time we could discover universal harmony without quite so much scratching. The symbionts across every being in the chamber spelled out a single word, unlikely. MEDI. Sarah called out one last time, final status update. Let's see, how about harmoniously hilarious? Perfect, though maybe add primitively progressive. The A's hologram smiled. Already done, Doctor. Also, your grandmother wants to know if the symbionts have any food allergies. She's planning something called quantum dim sum. Sarah looked around the chamber, at the beings from across the galaxy who had found a way to grow together, all because of an itchy diplomat and some spicy tea. Tell her to make extra. Something tells me this is just the beginning of a much bigger story. The symbiont's response floated in the air for all to see, to be continued. And somewhere in the quantum realm, trillions of tiny organisms danced with joy, finally home.